There is a growing trend in the automotive industry to make vehicles look a little bit more rugged and off-roady. The vehicle standing next to me is the first ever 2025 Nissan Rogue Rock Creek edition, and this is Nissan's answer to that in the compact crossover segment. Today's video will tell you everything you need to know about this vehicle and why the Rogue is Nissan's best-selling vehicle. All right, so here we have the 2025 Nissan Rogue, and secretly I've actually wanted to review one of these vehicles because Nissan sells over 200,000 of these every single year, and I've been kind of curious to find out what exactly is so special about this car. And after driving this around for a week, I can kind of see why. We'll talk more on that later on in the video. The first thing I want to discuss is the history of the model. So the Rogue came out back in around 2007, and it's been obviously gone through a couple different generations. This one in particular is the third generation, which was released in the 2021 model year, and as of 2024 they facelifted it with some new additions up front, and for the 2025 model year is the first time ever they're offering the Rock Creek edition. Now Rock Creek is Nissan's jargon for a more off-roady trim. Think of it as a Pro 4X trim for its crossover vehicles. The Pathfinder was the very first Rock Creek edition that came out, and now this is the first time ever they're offering it on the Rogue, because obviously in a very crowded segment like the compact crossover segment where you have the Toyota Rav4, the Honda CR-V, and the list just continues to go down, they have to find a way to differentiate themselves, and having something that looks a little bit more off-roady is definitely going to help them, because that is definitely a trend right now in the industry. So the first thing I want to discuss is what exactly is the Rock Creek edition and what does it include? All right, so what exactly is the Rock Creek edition? Well, first off, I want to point out this badging. So of course you have Rock Creek over here on the side of the vehicle, but then this little lava red mountain peak, which actually looks a little bit more orangish, is the color for the Rock Creek edition. Either the Rogue or the Pathfinder, you'll find these kind of reddish orange accents all throughout the vehicle, including the wheels themselves. But first off, let's start off with the front end and what exactly is included. Well, first off, you get this gloss black grille. It looks really nice, very premium looking. And then you've got the new Nissan logo, but it's also got that lava red color to it, so it stands out a little bit from the crowd. You also have these little 3 air inlets, although these are fake, they're actually filled in, but this is also a hallmark of the Rock Creek, and it's the same on the Pathfinder as well, if you guys saw my review from a couple years back. And then down at the bottom of the bumper and the front splitter, you'll find more of those lava red accents to kind of designate this as something a little bit different. Coming across the side of the vehicle, you'll notice you have bespoke wheels and tires as well. These are 17-inch rims, blacked out with a little bit more of that lava red accent to it, and a little mountain peak over there as well. I like the attention to detail, along with that Nissan badge having those lava red accents. But it doesn't just stop with the wheels. The tires are also more rugged. These are 235/65. These are Falcon Wild Peak all-terrain tires, and as you can tell, they're definitely a little bit more rugged than your traditional Rogue. You've even got a little bit of ridges over here on the side when you take this thing on some light off-roading, and it looks really good. It makes the vehicle look more rugged. Now, one thing to note, despite having these beefier tires, the ground clearance is identical between the regular version and the Rock Creek version. We'll talk about that when we touch on the dimensions, but just wanted to point that out because it doesn't actually add more ground clearance. And then moving upwards, every single Rock Creek Rogue will come with this pretty hefty looking roof rack. This is definitely beefier looking than anything I've ever seen on a Rogue before. It's made out of steel, it's very solid, and then you've got more of that orangish or lava red coloration back here, and it has this cool shape to it in the back. So if you plan on putting some kayaks or some skis up here, it's a really nice feature to have, and you may want to consider the Rock Creek if that's something you're going to use your Rogue for. Now moving towards the back of the vehicle, not too much to point out back here aside from the blacked out badging for the Rogue, and your Nissan logo has those lava red accents, along with the Rock Creek badging near the all-wheel drive sign in the back. Now to finish off the exterior, there's 4 different color options if you pick the Rock Creek. You can get, of course, this gray color. It's actually called Boulder Gray. You can also pick like a sandstorm color, which is kind of this cool beige. There's, of course, a black and a white as well. But that finishes off the exterior. Let's jump on the interior touches of the Rock Creek. So jumping on the inside, you will get these custom looking seats. So they've got a little bit of this sport cloth. This is actually a water resistant material mixed with some faux leather over here, along with some of that lava red contrast stitching. And then I do like how it says Rock Creek over here embossed into this leatherette material, and your headrest has a little bit more of that contrast stitching also. And with this being a Rock Creek, every single one of them comes with heated seats. Now we'll talk about the interior styling here in just a minute, but the Rock Creek will also add this piano black plastic, which of course gets a little bit dusty and adds fingerprints, but I think it looks pretty good on the interior because it's not overdone here. Now, in addition, with the Rock Creek, you're going to get a 360-degree camera, but it also has an off-road mode, which shows you the front 2 tires, and then it'll also show you a full view of the front of the vehicle. So that way you know exactly what's going on in front of the vehicle when you're taking it off-roading. The Rock Creek Edition also adds hill descent control, which is essentially an off-road cruise control. So that way you set a certain speed and the vehicle will maintain that speed as you're going downhill. So you don't have to play around with the gas and the brake pedal. You can just let the car do it on its own. And lastly, the Rock Creek will also get you this 12-volt power outlet located in the trunk. All right, so now that we've discussed specifically what comes on the Rock Creek Edition, let's talk general exterior and interior styling of the Rogue. So starting off with the front end, every single Rogue will come with these LED daytime running lamps and LED headlamps with automatic high beams. Now, I kind of wish these turn signal indicators were also LEDs, but unfortunately they're just your traditional incandescent lights. But I think the front end looks really cool. It kind of expands on a growing trend of having headlights located below the daytime running lights up top. It continues the design language that Nissan has been using on its Pathfinder and some other vehicles. I think it's a little bit better looking than some of the competition in its same class. Now, coming across the side of the vehicle, we already talked wheels and tires, but I do want to point out you've got black plastic fender flares over here and the side skirt. And the side profile of the vehicle is kind of a nice boxier shape to it, which adds to the interior cargo volume. I also like this blacked out A-pillar, which makes it look like the windshield kind of wraps around the front end. Now, in terms of the length here, we're talking 183 inches long. The height is 66.5 inches tall. And in case you're wondering about the width, it's about 72.4 inches wide. Now, in regards to the ground clearance, I teased this a little bit earlier, but you've got 8.2 inches of ground clearance, which is standard amongst all the competition. And it's the same regardless of what trim level you pick. I kind of wish the Rock Creek Edition added a little bit of ground clearance, similar to how Kia's X-Pro or Hyundai's XRT trim adds a little bit of ground clearance to it. That would have been nice, but they just don't include that on the Rogue specifically. Coming across the rear end of the vehicle, you still get LED tail lights. However, your turn signals are again incandescent light bulbs, and then you've got this integrated spoiler along with your windshield wiper mounted in the back. And then back here, you've got some more black plastic, but you've got integrated parking sensors as standard on all trim levels. Now, jumping under the hood of the Rogue is a pretty new powertrain for Nissan. They released it in the Rogue back in 2022, and it's the same one for 2025. It's a 1.5 liter variable compression, turbocharged 3-cylinder engine that actually produces a pretty healthy amount of power for a displacement of this size. We're talking 201 horsepower and 225 pound-feet of torque. Now, all of that power is sent through, unfortunately, an Xtronic CVT transmission. That's kind of par for the course in the compact crossover segment. Now, this vehicle can be had in either front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. However, for obvious reasons, if you pick the Rock Creek, your only option is all-wheel drive. Fuel economy is about 27 in the city, 32 on the highway for a combined 29. However, if you choose the front-wheel drive version, your combined MPG is 32. Towing capacity on this is pretty standard. It's 1,500 pounds, and the curb weight of this vehicle is just around 3,700 pounds. Now, I teased off the interior a little bit, but next up I want to jump inside and give you a more detailed look at the interior features and amenities. First off, I want to show you the Nissan key. This is the same one they've been using on all of their new models. You still have your lock, unlock. You've also got remote start and your panic button. This one also has the power liftgate feature, so you can hold this button down and it will open up that trunk. And then it's a pretty okay key. It's a little bit boxier. It's got some kind of fake aluminum on the outside. And I do like that they have remote start integrated into the key. That way you don't have to pay for that feature. Now, jumping on the inside, this vehicle impresses me a lot with the material usage. In fact, Nissan in general has really stepped up the game on their interiors over the last couple years. Starting off with the door panel, this is all soft touch material up here. It's kind of like this leather wrap material, fake leather. You've got more of that fake leather over here. It's actually a really plush leather material, similar to the seats and the steering wheel, which we'll touch on in just a sec. You also got soft touch material here. This has that lava red stitching that is kind of a hallmark of the the Rock Creek edition. Of course, you have automatic windows, door locks, and switches. You've got your, I believe this is a plastic door handle, but it still has a nice touch to it. And then this one has the $800 premium package, so you have memory seats included as part of that package. Now down here, this is hard touch plastic, which is to be expected. You got a little storage compartment here and a cup holder. I wish this was a little bit of a larger slot, but it's forgivable. Now in regards to the speaker setup here, it's a 6-speaker audio system. And then jumping on the inside, we already showed off what these seats look like, but every single Rock Creek will come with these 8-way power adjustable seats with 2-way lumbar support. Now jumping inside the cabin, there's a more detailed look at what the design looks like. It again looks more premium than what you would expect just a entry-level compact crossover would look like. First off, starting off with the steering wheel, let's turn this vehicle on. You have the engine start-stop button over there. But this is one of the softest steering wheels I've ever felt. And it's a faux leather. They call it like tailored fit leatherette, but it's incredibly soft. It's very, very comfortable to hold your hands on it. It's a flat bottom design. And then it's got this lava red contrast stitching over here, which is again, a nice added touch along with the lava red accents here. Now this steering wheel is tilt and telescopic, manually adjustable. And because this has that $800 premium package, it also has heated steering functionality, which is activated using the buttons over here in the center. Now in regards to the material usage over here, you've got this kind of padded soft touch leather with some more contrast stitching. And then this is all that same soft touch faux leather material that you found on top of the door panel. Again, more soft touch padding over here with this contrast stitching that extends all the way from pretty much the steering wheel to the passenger side. Some of that piano black plastic with some faux aluminum that outlines the air vents and the climate control stack. It's a really nice looking interior. I think the closest to this in terms of luxuriousness for a compact crossover is probably the Mitsubishi Outlander, which is no surprise because they essentially share the same platform. Mitsubishi and Nissan share common ownership, so of course they use similar powertrains and features and materials. So this is definitely up there as one of the best. Now coming back to the steering wheel, I want to point out on the left-hand side is your buttons to control your gauge cluster display, along with your volume, seek, track, and your menu button for the gauge cluster display as well. On the right-hand side is your set of adaptive cruise control functionality. So every single Rogue above the S trim level will come with adaptive cruise control with lane centering technology. So this vehicle will actively center itself in the middle of the highway. That's something that not all the competition offer, especially at this particular price point. You typically have to upgrade to the highest trim levels, whereas here it's kind of middle of the road and it includes lane centering technology. Now we'll dive more into the available safety features later on in the video, but you can of course have your voice activation, your phone, and then you can set your distance indicator there as well. Behind the steering wheel, you'll notice you have paddle shifters. That's standard on all trim levels as well, even though it's a little bit silly since this is a CVT, so there's really no gears, but it makes it feel a little bit spunkier. On the left-hand side is your buttons for your turn signal and your headlights, and then on the right-hand side is your windshield wiper stock. Before we talk about the gauge cluster, I do want to point out what's over here. You have your button to turn on and off your lane centering technology. This is your power lift gate, your auto start-stop functionality, and your brightness. What I do find funny about Nissan brightness indicator is it's like dim, 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 and then it will go all of a sudden to super bright. So it's hard to see when it's bright outside, but when it's dark on the outside, it's kind of funny how all of these bars up to the very last one are super dim, and then the last one is like super bright. It's funny how they do that. Now, in regards to this gauge cluster screen, it's a 7-inch display. However, on the highest trim level, you can get the optional 12.3-inch all-digital gauge cluster that they use in a lot of Infiniti products as well. This one is the same one they've used on Infiniti and Nissan products for probably the better part of the last decade. There's not too much to report here in terms of functionality. It will show you your speedometer, your efficiency, some of your driver assistance features, and your Bluetooth audio, but it's pretty bare bones for the most part. Now jumping over to this center screen, it's the same one I recently reviewed in the Nissan Altima. It's an 8-inch display with wired Apple CarPlay and wired Android Auto. This is a little bit of a sore spot for me because I'm okay with having this 8-inch screen on the entry-level trim, but I think anything above entry-level needs to have Nissan's latest 12.3-inch display. That one is really good. It has great software. It's wireless CarPlay, wireless Android Auto, but here, for some reason, they still continue to stick this 8-inch display. Now, if you choose any trim level above this one, you can get the optional 12.3-inch, but again, I think that should be included as standard. This one is just okay. It doesn't seem to compete as well with some of the latest competition out there. I mean, it's a little bit laggy, so you can hit the home menu and then swipe through. It's just not the quickest software. It's fine. There's nothing here that's really bad. It's just not fancy, and it's just not very up to speed with the latest technology. At least you have some physical quick access buttons down here, and you have your physical volume and tune knob, but that's kind of where the benefits stop there. So I just really think they need to integrate that new display that I've reviewed in other Nissan products. And like I showed off earlier, this vehicle has that 360-degree camera, which comes on multiple different trim levels, including the Rock Creek, but the Rock Creek will also give you that off-road view. And then if you pick the 12.3-inch display, you're also going to get a more advanced 360-degree camera. So again, just another reason why you should upgrade to the larger screen. But if you need the Rock Creek, unfortunately, that's not an option for you. Now, moving down from there, you got your air vent controls, and then some pretty nice switches over here for your climate controls. You got your heated seat functionality there, your steering wheels over there, and then your fan speed. And these buttons feel pretty nice. They're actually very similar to something I reviewed in an Infiniti QX80 a few years back. Now, down here, you got 2 USB ports, cigarette-style power outlet, and then this one comes with the optional wireless charging pad that's part of the premium package. And again, you've got some ambient lighting over here, which lights up at night and looks pretty cool. So as you can tell, the premium package is definitely worth it because it adds some nice goodies on the interior. This is kind of a more brushed plastic material. I can't say it's piano black plastic. It almost has a fake metal feel to it. I do like the leather wrapped gear selector over here. You got your electronic parking brake, your auto hold, 2 cup holders, and this is your different drive modes. You've got sport, eco, auto, snow, and off-road. And then moving back here, you've got some soft touch padding for your center arm console. Over here, it's all hard touch plastic. However, as you'll notice, there's a 2-tiered approach over here. So you got your top center arm console, then you've also got this little storage compartment down here, so you can throw like a purse or your wallet or something like that. Very useful to have some more storage in a compact crossover. Opening this up, there's not too much to report back here. There's a little ridge where you can store like your wallet, but other than that, it's a pretty deep storage compartment in the center. And then of course on the passenger side, underneath this piano black plastic, you've got a pretty decent sized glove compartment. Now up above you, because this one has the premium package, it has the auto dimming rear view mirror, and then you've got a little sunglass holder up here along with your conventional lights. And then this one does not come with a sunroof or moonroof. You have to opt for the higher trim levels in order to get that. Last thing to mention before we jump into the second row is your passenger seat is 4-way power operated if you get that premium package. So here's me trying to convince you to get that premium package because it adds a lot of features for just $800. Now jumping into the second row of the Rogue, it's still a really nice place to be. Not as nice of material choices as the first row. This is hard touch plastic, but that's kind of par for the course among the competition. This is all soft touch material along with your little armrest over here. It's also got some of that same lava red accents. They really didn't need to do that for the second row, but they did. You got your automatic window switches with that fake metal looking plastic. You've also got a cup holder and an extension of your audio system. And then talking about these seats, same cool looking seats that you find in the first row. You still have a mix of that water resistant material with some fake leather. It would be cool if they had some Rock Creek badging back here, but you still get that lava red accents. And then jumping back here, this is gobs of legroom. It's actually very easy to get in and out of the vehicle. That's one of the advantages of having a crossover. It's pretty low to the ground and very comfortable back here. I mean, this is a compact crossover and I've got this much legroom. This is 38.5 inches in the second row according to Nissan. You've also got 2 air vents back here, which is standard on all trim levels, USB ports as well. And then this particular vehicle is optioned with these about $200 all-weather floor mats, which look really nice, and they've also got Rock Creek spelled out in the back. In regards to headroom, it's a pretty boxy vehicle, so I got plenty of space above my head, and then I've also got this little leather-wrapped center arm console, which is pretty cushy. It's also got 2 cup holders. All right, now jumping into the trunk area, this particular vehicle, because it has the premium package, has the hands-free power liftgate, although a power-operated liftgate is standard on all trim levels. Now, jumping back here, I kind of teased this off earlier. There's that Rock Creek on the all-weather floor mats. There's a little bit of storage space over here on the right-hand side and on the left-hand side, and you've got a 60/40 folding flat second row. Now, in terms of cargo volume back here, we're looking at about 36.5 cubic feet of space behind the second row. If you fold down the second row, you're looking at about 72.9 cubic feet of space behind the first row. Now, taking a look at what's going on over here, there's really no storage space. You just have this compact spare tire. Next up, let's address the safety tech that comes on all the different trim levels. So the standard S trim level comes with a lot of safety features out of the gate. You still get, of course, cruise control, but you've also got blind spot monitoring, lane departure warning, automatic emergency braking. You've also got rear parking sensors. Now, if you step up to any level above the S trim, you'll also get adaptive cruise control, with its sensor located right here front and center, and you'll get that lane centering technology like this particular vehicle has as well. Now, if you step up to the highest trim levels, you can get it optioned with Nissan Pro Pilot Assist 2.1, which is hands-free driving on certain US highways. Now, I've experienced this in the Nissan Ariya, and it works pretty well. It doesn't work continuously forever, but the technology is getting there and they continuously update it to make it better and better. So if you guys want to do some type of hands-free driving like Chevy Super Cruise or Ford Blue Cruise, then Nissan Pro Pilot Assist 2.1 is a great option that's available on the Rogue in the Platinum trim level. Now, in case you're wondering about the safety rating here, the NHTSA rated the Nissan Rogue with 5 stars. In terms of the warranty, it's pretty standard: 3-year, 36,000-mile bumper-to-bumper limited warranty, a 5-year, 60,000-mile powertrain warranty, and as of 2025, Nissan gives you 2 years or up to 24,000 miles of prepaid maintenance on every single new vehicle. Alrighty, next up, let's address pricing. Now, the starting price for the S trim level, excluding destination, is $29,230. Now, if you step up all the way to the Platinum trim level, that one tops out around $39,250. If you want to get all-wheel drive, it's about a $1,400 premium on top of all those base prices. And then the Rock Creek edition kind of sits in the middle of the trim level pack. It starts around $35,420, but this one in particular, with the premium package with those all-weather floor mats on the inside and after destination cost, tops at around $38,225, which is still less than the average price of a new vehicle. Next up, let's jump behind the wheel and talk about how this vehicle drives. Now, the first thing I'll mention is something I love about crossovers of this size. It's so easy to get in and out of the vehicle. I think that's why people love it so much. You don't have to fall in, you don't have to jump up. It's just very easy. And the next thing I want to see is how this door sounds when it closes. It's pretty average. Nothing out of the ordinary here. It's not super impressive, but it's also not bad. And then this vehicle does have the power operated seat to put you back in the driver's position, that easy entry and exit. So putting this into drive, one thing I've noticed over the last week or so driving around this vehicle is, as you would expect, it's incredibly maneuverable. So here I am in this parking lot. And the turning radius is great. I mean, this is on par with pretty much every other compact crossover, and that's why people like them a lot. They're very spacious on the inside, but they're not spacious on the outside, I guess. They're not very large on the outside. It's very easy to just drive this vehicle around, kind of dart in and out of traffic, and it's perfect for, you know, highly congested cities. Now, another thing I noticed from the very beginning sitting in this vehicle is how comfy these seats are. Now, I know Nissan likes to call their seats the zero gravity seats. I'm not quite sure if the ones in this particular vehicle are also zero gravity seats. I imagine they are, but they use memory foam from like the NASA created memory foam to make them a little bit more comfortable. And I gotta say, they hug you really nice. They're not too tight. They're perfectly cushy. Very nice seats for just daily driving the vehicle. Next, I want to discuss the ride quality. We'll touch more on this when we get onto the freeway, but we're about to drive over some train tracks, and I want to show you what it feels like behind the camera. It's a little bit loud when you drive over something bumpy, but it doesn't jar you. It's more loud than it is uncomfortable. Now, for the next part of this video, we're actually going to get onto the freeway, and I want to see how this thing accelerates and how it feels. So I'm actually going to put it into sport mode here. So here we are at 20. Let's stomp on it. It's really not that bad. Now, granted, that was mostly uphill, and it was kind of actually a pretty steep hill, so it's not a great indicator of the performance of this vehicle. But this vehicle feels more powerful than a 1.5-liter turbocharged 3-cylinder. I mean, it feels no less powerful to me than any 2-liter turbo that I've reviewed in the past, especially for a vehicle that's not super light. I mean, it's 3,700 pounds at the end of the day. And it's not meant for 0 to 60 accelerations. It's really meant for kind of darting in and out of traffic, and it's perfectly fine for that in my week's worth of driving this vehicle. Sometimes you do feel a little bit of that turbo lag, but if you're just driving this kind of normally, you're never going to feel like this thing is underpowered. That's one of the things I like about turbos, is they kind of make very small displacement engines feel more normal, despite having maybe a little bit of a lag to it. Now, in terms of overall reliability in the long run, I don't know exactly how a turbocharged 3-cylinder is going to last compared to a traditional, 2.5-liter 4-cylinder or even a V6. That's kind of up to the test of time. But in terms of performance and how it feels behind the wheel, it's perfectly fine. Now let's talk about the road noise here. It's actually relatively quiet, especially for a entry-level compact crossover. You could easily have a conversation with people in the second row. They did a really good job with the sound insulation here. And you know, driving over bumps over here on the freeway, it's also a pretty compliant and comfortable ride quality. It's probably better than some of the competition out there that I've reviewed. Now, I think Chevy makes some pretty soft suspensions. I think they're probably up there as one of my favorite in this segment. But other than that, I think this is a very comfortable ride. It feels a little bit more comfortable than the Toyota Rav4 that I used to have back from 2018. Now, granted, that was a much older vehicle, a lot has changed, but still, this thing rides a little bit cushier, a little bit softer, and I think that's one of the advantages of getting the Rogue over some of the competition. In regards to safety features here, you know, turning them on with the steering wheel, I've used it over the last few days, and it's been kind of raining on and off, and so when it's rainy conditions and the road is kind of reflective, it doesn't do that great of a job, but none of them really do. In conditions like it is today, where it's like 60 degrees and it's sunny, this thing works great. The lane centering is awesome. Here we are entering a curve. Of course, I'm going to keep my hands on the steering wheel because that's the requirement, but it's keeping along with that curve on its own. I'm not actually pushing the steering wheel. It's doing it all by itself. So, you know, for a $35,000 to $40,000 car to do this kind of stuff, it's awesome. It's really impressive. I don't think a lot of the competition offer as much for that same price point. Here I'm going to accelerate a little bit. Yeah, it goes up pretty quick. The only downside really that I see with this powertrain is just the sound of that CVT, that droniness that you just can't escape no matter what CVT you have. Just always sounds a little drony. It kind of feels like the engine's struggling, even if it might not be. But that, again, is more of an enthusiast in me coming out and saying, I don't really like CVT. For the common driver that doesn't really pay attention to that kind of stuff, this could be perfectly fine. That's why Nissan continues to sell them, because the majority of people who are buying this vehicle don't really care what kind of transmission it is. They care more about how it feels, and you know, it's a pretty smooth transmission because there's no gears. So to finish off this video, what are my overall thoughts on the Nissan Rogue Rock Creek Edition? Well, I was pleasantly surprised with this vehicle. It kind of caught me off guard. I didn't expect it to be as good as it was. It's a really great daily driver. I would love to have this as just my daily commuter. It's got plenty of tech. It looks really nice on the inside. There's really nothing wrong with it. However, I will nitpick or provide some constructive criticism to Nissan that I wish they would integrate in this particular vehicle. First off, I think the upgraded 12.3-inch infotainment screen is a necessity on this Rock Creek trim. I think they should leave the 8-inch on the entry level. Everything above that gets the more advanced infotainment screen. Secondly, I think the Rock Creek trim should come with at least a 1-inch lift to kind of differentiate itself from the other trim levels and make it look a little bit beefier and taller than some of the competition. Lastly, in general, I think the Nissan Rogue should offer different powertrains, specifically hybrid powertrains. Either that's a plug-in hybrid like what you find on the Mitsubishi Outlander, or just a conventional hybrid system. I think a lot of the competition offer that, and Nissan is kind of missing out by not having that as an option. This 1.5 liter is the only option you can get on the Rogue. But overall, this is a fantastic daily driver, and I'd recommend it to anybody. What are your guys' thoughts on the Nissan Rogue Rock Creek trim level? Would you take this over the competition, and why? Let me know down in the comments below. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for all of the weekly car videos. Also check me out on all the social media, same as the YouTube channel name. And until next time, everybody, I hope you stay schwazy, stay healthy, have a wonderful day.